What's up, and welcome to another episode of the Grindline Podcast. I am your host, Greg. This is episode 163. I am here tonight with Ryan and Tyler. It must be some kind of streak we have going because both people are here.
Two in a row?
Yeah, because there's news today. But I want to get how you guys are feeling before we get to the news, because news, like real, actual news in Red Wings land.
I'm tired, but it was a long weekend with a lot of kids stuff.
I'm also tired.
Kids drain the life out of you, man.
They do.
Tyler, I envy you.
Yeah, I'm doing okay. I mean, I could be doing a lot better.
You could be not eating a salad.
What type of salad are you eating now that you have
chicken Caesar?
Chicken Caesar. Ooh,
that's an acceptable salad.
Yeah.
That is very acceptable. I approve. I had that last night.
Made by one Bernie Sealy, my mother. So I'm fantastic salad.
So we're saying all the right things. Got it.
As far as how well I'm doing, well, I mean, considering I would have been at week 2 of spring training right now.
We're not talking about that.
Not good. Not good.
Killed the whole time. Tyler's like, they're going to make a deal. It's just posturing. Oh, and then there's no deal. And Tyler's like, son of a bitch. And
there's still going to be a deal. There's still going to be a deal. There'll be a deal to be made. They're not going to lose the whole season. No, they're not.
The worst.
If they lose the whole season, half of the fan base is gone.
Half the fan base is already gone. Baseball.
I don't believe that. But anyways, I'm doing good. Other than the baseball day 98 of the baseball lockout, I'm doing okay besides that.
Well, good. Because the Red Wings, I think, are doing even better. So we have a few things to talk about tonight. I think we'll just pick up off the top of the stuff that happened while we were away. The Red Wings lost a couple games. And, I mean, they weren't terrible. Right? I mean, nothing was as bad as the Toronto game.
Tampa, they weren't terrible.
No.
You could argue Florida because they went wholesale changes for some reason.
And I mean, Florida right now is just unstoppable.
They're a point behind Tampa, which blows my mind.
Yeah, I mean, the Panthers really, really, really kicked it up. They were good last season, but they're really, really good this season.
You know what's really scary?
Real Panthers?
No, the fact that the Panthers are good and they're on this like tear, and the Lightning are still a point ahead of them.
Yeah, it's what happens when you don't bench Cooch for the whole season.
They lost their whole third line. And they haven't
Cooch off for most of the season either.
And they haven't missed a beat.
Well, here's the thing, Tyler. If we lost our whole third line, would we really look any different?
Probably not.
There'd be no difference.
We might actually get better.
A team like Tampa, I mean, Yanni Gourde could step up and play on that second line. Barclay Goodrow was a huge part of penalty killing for that team, and you know, he's a huge role player.
So I wouldn't say that the Florida loss was unexpected.
No, you could tell that they were on the back half of a back-to-back, though. That's for damn sure. I'm assuming that's why he made the quick adjustments he did to the roster, but it was not pretty.
And Greiss was not good.
Yeah, Greiss getting pulled did not help either. And there's a difference between being left out to dry and getting pulled, kind of like Ned against Toronto that in the 10-7 NFL game.
Well, really, most of the times Ned has been pulled.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Greiss he was not having a good game. My dad, even when I was watching the game with him that night, he even made the comment, like, just watching him go side to side, something just didn't seem right, which was weird because, I mean, Greiss he's been doing decent since the All-Star break. So that was definitely a disappointment.
Yep.
Yeah, he was miserable in that game. I mean, the Tampa game, my friend, I should say my cousin Tom, he was asking me, he's like, what do you think of the Wings tonight, to bet? And I'm like,
don't.
The Wings in Tampa Bay do not win. It's like, I don't want to make this comparison, but I have to. It's like Michigan going to the shoe at Ohio State. They don't win. So, no, don't do that. And I've also come to a conclusion. Don't bet against the Tampa Bay Lightning. If you like money, you're keeping your money.
Yeah, don't do that.
It's a bad idea. But they held their own in that game. I mean, they certainly had their chances to win the game. The Florida game, I really didn't see a whole lot of. I saw the highlights, or I should say low lights, and it wasn't good.
But I mean, again, it's against a really, really, really good Panthers team.
Yeah.
There wasn't really anything you were going to do.
On a back-to-back, I mean, they could have been a lot more competitive. I feel like in a night where they weren't as exhausted and they didn't have a good game. Everything the Panthers put on net went in, and it just goaltending wise was pathetic. So
yeah, I started getting the alerts, and because I want to watch hockey, but my daughter would love to watch Care Bears, so we watched Care Bears. And I got the alerts, and then by the time I got the one that said it was 3-1, I'm like, yeah, this game is not going as well as you would hope. But
I just made full commitment to the UFC fights for that night, and that was
good.
worth it.
But there's actually news that started, what was it, yesterday? News started yesterday, which today is Monday, the 7th. Hopefully I get this out tomorrow. But the Red Wings picked up Olli Juolevi off of waivers.
Your first reaction to that name is what? You are not alone.
Yeah. Number 5 overall draft pick in 2016 by the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about the first 4 ahead of him? Austin Matthews, Patrick Laine, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Jesse Puljujarvi.
And then Olli Juolevi.
Matthew Tkachuk right after him. Just notables after him. Charlie McAvoy, Jacob Chychrun. Oh, yeah. That's the infamous Ken Holland trades away Datsuk contract to get Dennis Cholowski.
Well, I tried to get Stamkos, and Stamkos wouldn't even give him a meeting. So
I don't even think that's ever even true.
Well, Juolevi went number 5 overall to the Vancouver Canucks. He was then traded to the Florida Panthers. He had some injury issues. Florida then waived him. I mean, being waived you could still be a good player and be waived by Florida because they're not going to mess up the setup they currently have. And he was just one that, it was exposed him to waivers.
Hey, what happened with Vancouver, though?
Olli Juolevi was traded to the Florida Panthers by the Vancouver Canucks for forward Juho Lammikko and defenseman Noah Juulsen. So Lammikko is a 25-year-old center, and he put up 5 points in 44 games the season before. And then Juulsen is a 24-year-old defenseman, was placed on waivers by the Panthers on October 1st. And he played 4 games the season prior. And he was a first-round pick by the Montreal Canadiens in 2015.
Yep. So
they traded a forward and a defenseman for Juolevi, and then they waived him because like you said, their setup is good right now. They don't really want to mess it up, and he had to be exposed to waivers to get through. Detroit was not going to let that go because, a 23-year-old previous top 5 pick who originally was in Vancouver, who, as we know, their development team is god awful and they're not doing anything with their prospects. So you bring him here. You hope that the Detroit staff can fix his issues, because I think right now they said his issues, one of the big issues is his skating. But skating can be fixed. That is a thing we know can be fixed. So he is 6'2", 182 pounds. He, like I said, is 23 years old, from Helsinki, Finland. By looking at him, he will be the new hot guy on the Red Wings.
Like the ooh, tingly in my pants hot guy?
Yeah, because we got rid of Darren Helm, who was apparently the previous hot guy. So now we've got him, and he's younger than Helm, and he's Finnish, and he's blonde. Ryan, do you see a picture of him?
Yep, looking at him. He looks 12.
So he will be the new hot guy, right?
God in heaven.
Guy's a man rocket, just like Val Filppula was at one point.
Man rocket.
You've never heard of Rocket?
Yes, I have.
So Rocket is a decent looking woman, and a man rocket is a man that looks like, decent.
Hot.
A hot man, okay?
Why don't you just call him a missile, Tyler?
A missile, there you go.
Rocket. Ryan is utterly confused.
Ryan is
or amazed. One of the two. The look. It's amazement or confusion on his face.
I think it's concern is a better word.
So if we go over his stats, in 2021-22, he played 10 games. He had a Corsi 4 of 54.9 and an offensive zone start. 67% of his starts were in the offensive zone for a defenseman, which is
but no points.
I don't know if that's good or concerning. And averaged 12 minutes of ice time. In his career, he has 33 games played in the NHL level with 2 goals, 1 assist, 3 points, a -1, with a overall Corsi 4 of 48.1. and 50.7% of his starts in the O zone. So that seems a little bit more average.
So my take on him is like he's one of those like Eisenman reclamation projects where like
could be
if you can get something out of him, great. If you can't, he'll just be another Adam Ernie or Brendan Perlini or like a guy like that where he's just you pick him up, he's not that great, and you move on from him. But he could turn into this reclamation project that becomes a guy that's at least a shutdown guy.
The comparison I heard today, and I think it was Ethan that we were talking about it in text, is he kind of compared him to a Philip Zadina type project, and I'm really not sure how to take that.
Well, the upside to it is he makes $750,000 a season.
Yeah.
And he's an ARB eligible RFA next season. So you still control him for 3 more years because he won't be 26 for 3 more years. And he's a left D, and your weakest position is left D. I mean,
does he fill the need of coming in? I mean, we'll get to this other person here in a second, but does he fill what Mark Stahl gives you as your depth left D?
Well, I would, if for depth, I would say sure. You're not going to get any worse than what we currently have.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what it is you hope that he comes in and still has that ability that he had when he was picked up in the draft. Because you don't really lose. I mean, you can lose the confidence, and you can your game might not translate to the next level. And we've seen that with, several people. But you hope that your staff can turn him around, can get the right message in his head, can get him working on, like I said, the skating and go from there. And it could be just a thing of he needs more playtime, because I don't know how you couldn't have got the playtime in Vancouver. I mean, Quinn Hughes was drafted and that kind of took up a spot. But in Florida, I can see how you don't get the playtime. Just how Robbie Fabry didn't get the playtime in St. Louis.
The Red Wings of old.
Yeah. I can see maybe he comes here, maybe he gets 13 minutes a night and just works on his game, because he was picked 5th overall. I'm not going to say that it's all guaranteed, but 5th overall for a reason. And then probably mishandled by Vancouver. Because if you look at his 2018-19 season in Utica, in 18 games, he had 13 points. And the 2019-20 season in Utica, he played 45 games and had 25 points. So he came over, played 1 season for Vancouver, played 1 season for Florida, went to Charlotte, and now he's here. So
Charlotte.
Yeah, the Charlotte Checkers. He played for the Checkers for 3 games.
Isn't that Carolina's AHL team?
They're now split between the Panthers
and Kraken. Yep.
Yeah. It came kind of out of nowhere that Carolina didn't renew with them. So then they kind of were like, oh, shit.
Yeah, so now they split with the Kraken and the Panthers. I mean, it's a 0 risk, possibly decent to high reward waiver pickup. You had to give up absolutely nothing for him. And if he doesn't work out, you can not qualify him in the offseason, or you sign him to a super low risk deal and you throw him to Grand Rapids. They need defensive help.
Yeah, don't tell Jen about defensive help and Danny DeKeyser, who we'll touch on here shortly.
To me, and I guess I can't really say this without speaking about what we're about to speak about, but without naming that person, I mean, this guy, is it wrong to say
he's like the fucking Voldemort of the Detroit Red Wings? Who shall not be
trying
named.
to avoid your spoilers, Greg.
Yeah, don't do any spoilers. God,
is it wrong to say that Olli Juolevi could play with more cider?
No. So that was another question we got. We do have some mailbag questions that we'll get to. We can talk about that right now.
Yeah, let's bring that one in.
Sure. Gavin at Gavin Knows Hockey. Knows Nose. Gavin Knows Hockey on Twitter. Do you see the new guy being paired with cider, or a possibility of it happening? I don't. Now, this is funny because at the beginning of the season, we said the Detroit Red Wings picked up Nick Leddy to teach Mo Seider. Now I think you've got Mo Seider teaching Olli Juolevi. And I mean, who better to learn from than what I'm going to say is a top 10 defenseman in the league? What this kid is doing, like what Seider is doing, I mean, every defenseman should be watching him. Literally every defenseman. And I could see, and Tyler had brought it up before, sometimes you pair your weakest defenseman with your strongest defenseman. And if he is considered now our weakest defenseman by whatever measure you want to use, putting him with Seider, who is like 2 years younger than him, I think that it's still going to make it a stronger pairing than Seider DeKeyser. It's going to make it a stronger pairing than Seider Leddy.
A couple of years ago, Tampa paired Victor Hedman with Andre Schuster, who was also waived today. Andre Schuster's a 6'7", I want to say, defenseman, right-handed shot. Kind of
they have
slow,
someone coming
guy.
back. That's why they waived him. I was kind of surprised by that.
I don't know the actual details to that, but I know that that's one guy that, I mean, Victor Hedman's probably a top 3 defenseman in the NHL, maybe the best defenseman in the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, they had him paired with Andre Schuster. Not the greatest defenseman.
I don't think they have anyone coming back in particular. So waiving him only gives them 6 defensemen, though. So that's interesting.
I wonder if they're going to make a trade.
Would you pair Juolevi with Seider? I mean, I don't see any issue with it.
You could. I mean,
he's playing a lot of minutes though at that point, and he hasn't played a lot of minutes in a while. It seems like.
Yeah, but he's also 23.
Yeah, he's young. He can do it.
But I mean, what do we know in terms of him against top tier offenses? Because we know Seider's getting out. He's out there in all situations at this point, and typically against some of the top offensive talent.
It can't be worse than what we have right now playing with Seider.
True, no. But if one of the issues, as Greg mentioned, I don't know squat about this guy, but unfortunately, but if one of these issues is skating, that's not a good thing to have when you're facing some of the faster guys on a team and better skating players on a team. You know what I mean?
But again, Ryan, your options beside him, though, are pretty much also all bad at skating. So the way I look at it is that if you put him up there with Seider, he was interviewed by Red Wings media, and he said that he feels his strengths are his puck retrieval and his breakout. So he makes himself seem like more of a defensive defenseman.
Yeah, so that fits right into what we've watched Detroit do this season, though. So in that sense, I mean,
throw him with Seider.
You could do that because, we see what Seider does with the puck. It seems like he's always 1 or 2 steps ahead, especially when it comes to trying to get the puck out of his own zone. If you've got a guy that he can mesh with real quick on that, I mean, I think Luddy in that sense is a great compliment because he can skate the puck out and get it out of danger quickly because he is a good skater. So, but if this guy can move the puck well, like it could work. But I mean, it's just going to be, maybe we'll see him just practice a few days and then see what happens. Because I mean, as of this morning, it was still Luddy Seider. Nothing really changed other than the bottom pair flip-flopping, which was Osterley Stetcher bottom level and DeKeyser and Lindstrom together. And then Juolevi was extra. So obviously, as we lead into our next portion, that's going to change come tomorrow.
Yeah. So, and we might as well talk about it because it's the next topic.
Everyone was wildly excited.
Yeah. Danny DeKeyser was waived today. Now, this is not the first time Danny DeKeyser has been waived.
No.
He has been waived previously and then come back to play because of either injury or something else happening. DeKeyser was reactivated and played. Mm-hmm. Jen brought up a good point. DeKeyser really can't go to Grand Rapids because of the veteran rule. I think that DK will basically be a press box guy.
That's where my head was at, that he's not going to actually report to Grand Rapids because they've got 30 they days to make a full decision, correct?
On what?
After if he clears.
What if he doesn't clear?
Well, thank God if he doesn't clear.
That's the biggest gift we could have ever been given.
You think Kenny's creaming his pants over there because DK's on waivers?
Dude, please make it happen. Can we make this happen?
Do they? They don't have $5 million. So
let's see. They've got
not $5 million.
Edmonton. 1.2.
Yeah, they don't have $5 million. They're actually over the cap by a lot.
Yeah, and they've got multiple players. I mean, Puljujärvi, Payson-Berry, and Nugent Hopkins are all on IR right now. And they've got multiple guys on LTIR.
Yeah, so DK, for all intents and purposes, as of recording right now, DK is on waivers, and DK is not playing for the Red Wings.
Mm-hmm.
And he was on most nights Mo Sider's partner. Now, if you replace him with a 23-year-old who has 2 functional legs, and I mean, is I think bigger than I haven't looked at DeKeyser's height and weight stats in a while. 6'3", 190, so around the same size. I mean, it's an upgrade regardless, which is why I'm saying you could just throw him with Mo, and it's not going to be any worse than it's been for the past over half a season.
As long as as long as he doesn't skate like DeKeyser, it's a win.
I think it's hard to skate like DeKeyser. You have to purposely try to do it.
Yeah, but I mean, you get what I'm saying though, because it sucks because someone made the comment I saw on Twitter that they feel bad for him, which I do too. But
sure, and we've said it before.
It's the nature of it. Like he has not been the same. And let me see if I can find it. I think it was George.
We have said before, sure, he's a great guy. Being a great guy doesn't make you good at hockey, and you can't put the two things together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not his fault, but he's got a bad wheel, and he's not what he used to be. That's George Malik.
There's guys in sports that have had fantastic seasons. There's guys that have had good seasons in their careers. Jonathan Chichu's one that comes to mind. I think he was a 30-goal scorer with San Jose. A couple of years later, just not the same guy. Cutthroat, he's gone. There's been countless examples of players like this. I don't know why Danny DeKeyser's any different. I mean, it's professional sports. You feel bad for the guy, of course. You hope
it just sucks because he's 31, 32, right. And his back's in the situation that it is. And I can totally relate.
I get it.
To the shit that he's dealing with because my back is equally fucked.
Yeah, and again, it's not the first time that an injury has taken out a younger player.
Yeah,
and it's not going to be the last time that an injury has taken out a younger player.
How old was Franzen when he had to go on LTIR?
Oh Lord,
he was. I want to say mid-30s, early to mid.
His last season, he played 2 games in 2015, 2016. So let's say his last season was 14-15.
8 years ago, 34.
Yeah, so still younger.
For the pace that he was still on at that point.
I feel old.
He was still making noise.
And it's a business thing. Your boss doesn't care if you're nice. Your boss doesn't care if you've got 5 kids. Your boss doesn't care if you live in a cardboard box. If you're not good at your job, you're not going to have your job anymore. And that was the whole thing that people were saying. They're like, this is how you know it's Yzerman's team. If you're not good at hockey, you're not on the team. Because I'm not here to be your babysitter. I'm not here to be your mom. I'm here to put a winning. Yeah, I'm here to put a winning product on the ice.
You just brought in a 23-year-old on a flyer because he's shown promise, and you think that there could be something more than your 32-year-old that you're paying $5 million a year.
And more importantly, he has 2 functional legs.
Yep.
So that was another thing someone asked. Do you know if Yzerman knew it was DeKeyser's birthday today? Because if so, that's pretty harsh. Again, it doesn't
too
matter.
Fucking bad.
It doesn't matter. And I get it. Boo-hoo, it was his birthday. Sure, your birthday's not a national holiday. And again, your boss doesn't care when your birthday is.
Also, you don't think Danny DeKeyser thought this was coming at some point?
After being scratched several games this season?
The way the last couple of weeks have gone, I think the writing was kind of on the wall at that point. Yeah. Especially with guys coming back healthy. When Stetcher came back healthy, finally, I think that's where the writing was on the wall officially. That's where it was, hey, you're on notice. Have fun.
I don't know why people think professional sports, how the hiring and firing process goes any different than any other job, because people don't think of it as a business. And at the end of the day, it's a business. It's like working anywhere else. If you work at a bank and it's your birthday and you suck at your job, they're going to fire you. They don't give a shit if it's your birthday. No one checks the files and goes, don't fire him. It's his birthday. Wait till tomorrow.
There's always the human aspect to it. I get it.
Sure.
But again, it's a business to make money.
Yep.
There's a lot of money at stake. And when guys don't do that, and at this level, when you're starting to cost people money, that's like you said, you're going to go bye-bye.
And even if your team
it can be upsetting. I get it. There's players that you're going to have connections to, but at the same time, it's just the nature of the beast.
It's
even
a
if your
sport.
team is bad, they still have to put the best product possible on the ice, because you're not just playing for today. You're going into next season. You're hoping to make playoffs next season. Why are you going to keep Danny DeKeyser until the end of the season and then have to start with a whole new lineup next season? And you want to get as many people in that you think are going to be able to go forward as you can before the season ends.
Yeah, we're past the point of no return in regards to tanking or quote unquote tanking or finishing at the bottom of the pack at this rate. The fact that Vrana is seemingly on the edge of returning, and this roster is still, I mean, more often than not, playing a tough game against top opponents. Are they winning those games? Not necessarily.
4 out of 5 nights, they're competitive.
Yeah, and that's what you want. And they've improved under Yzerman's tenure every single year. Mm-hmm. And that is what matters. And DeKeyser, he's on the final year of his contract. God bless him. He's been a great Red Wing. It's finally to the point it just needed to happen.
Yeah, I won't say great, but he's been, a Red Wing. You know what I mean?
Until he got hurt. I think you could say he's been a good player.
He did everything that was asked of him.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right.
There's a reason he got a $5 million contract other than Ken Holland, but he earned it by being a shutdown defenseman and also by being able to provide some offense.
And there was a lot more expected of him. I think that's what the disappointing part is.
Don't look up my old tweets with him. I think there might be one of me comparing him to someone.
We talked about it.
Some people were saying he could have been a Norris Trophy candidate. So that was back in the day, obviously, when we were delusional and I
didn't know how to use Twitter.
The Kool-Aid of being a playoff team every single year, and every player that we signed was going to be the second coming of Christ and blah, blah, blah. But now with reality and where we're at right now, it's time to move on. It's time to, obviously waiving him doesn't mean that he's never going to play in a Red Wing uniform again, but it gives them
the odds are good that he's back on this roster in a couple weeks.
Right. And it gives them flexibility. It gives them the opportunity to just say, you know what, you're not playing tonight. That's it. You're not playing. We're putting Olli Juolevi in there. Jacob Vrana is coming back off the injury reserve. And this is where we're going with this. We're going younger, not older. We're not going with guys that, can't skate anymore. Unfortunately for him, like I said before, it's tough for him. But again, this is a cutthroat business. This is not just, we'll put our favorite players out there because, we think that they deserve to be out there. No.
If you guys think cuts are bad in the NHL, you should just pay attention to the NFL for a season.
Mm-hmm, exactly. So, at the end of the day, it sucks for him as a person, but this is a business, and Steve Yzerman's trying to put a winning product on the team, not just right now, but going forward. And unfortunately for Danny DeKeyser, he's not a part of the future and the equation in the future as well.
So if we look at Jay Precious' war card, and if this is Danny DeKeyser's last game as a Red Wing, he will have ended with a projected WAR of 10%. 19% EV offense, 21 EV defense. His best stat is his PK at 86%.
Is he our worst defenseman right now?
Nick Leddy is 17.
Okay.
Osterley is at a 19%.
Even Osterley's better?
And I don't need to look at really any of the other ones because we know they're better than DeKeyser. Stahl's at a 14. Stetch has only played like 4 games.
Well, might have
he did a couple at the beginning of the season, though, didn't he?
Stetch is actually not on here.
Really?
Yeah. Troy Stetcher is actually not on the list. So, yeah, that's Lindstrom is at a 18. They also don't have a picture of Gustav Lindstrom. That is not Gustav Lindstrom. Who the fuck is this? Hold on. This is funny. Who is this? Name that hockey player.
Kind of like
who the fuck is this? A Coyotes player?
Gustav Forsling?
It is not Gustav Lindstrom.
That'd be a great guess.
Let's see.
No, that is not Gustav.
That is
Forsling.
not Gustav Forsling.
Not even close. Gustav Forsling is a handsome blonde.
That is not Gustav Lindstrom. But those are his stats. So DeKeyser is our worst defenseman.
I didn't realize it until it was mentioned or listed. I got to verify something. Hold on. Does he really not have? He has no goals Wow.
Who? DK?
Yep.
No, this season? No.
No.
So DeKeyser will end the season with, if he ends the season, with 43 games played, 6 assists, a -12, with an average time on ice of 18 minutes and 33 seconds, which is a goddamn crime. 80 block shots, 29 hits, 5 takeaways, 11 giveaways. He actually in 2013-14 had 15 Calder votes.
I'm not surprised by that.
No, me either. So it's, I mean, like we said, it sucks if you're ending your career. And I mean, I can't see another team taking even a cheap flyer on him at this point because of his skating. That to have an injury end your career, it sucks. But even Hockey Reference says happy birthday.
Oh,
it's so sad. But yeah, Danny DeKeyser, RIP if he's not a Red Wing anymore.
Good riddance.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, Tyler.
What did you say?
Good riddance on the ice, okay?
Riddance.
Good riddance on the ice. Not as a person. He's a great person, I'm assuming.
So the next bit of news we have is Jacob Vrana in regular rotation, no longer filling in for people on regular lines in practice. There's still been no word on doctor clearance or anything. They did post a nice video about like his journey to the NHL and how he ended up with the Red Wings and all that stuff, which makes me think that he's like really, really close because they're going to start ramping up the content on him. But again, no word on doctor clearance, but I mean, he could play as early as tomorrow against Arizona.
I mean, I'm torn on that if that's going to happen. Arizona would be a good game for him to probably get back into. Yeah, because right now, DeKeyser going on the waivers, they would be at 22 skaters currently, correct? So that they do have that 23rd availability because that'll give them 13 forwards, 8 defensemen, 2 goalies. Math is 23. Yep. So, I mean, all signs point to him being back. I made sure to verify and clarify with Max today when he said that he is skating on a line, that it wasn't just a rotation like it had been. So I go, so this isn't the typical rotating in, right? I know it seems explicit by what he said, but just asking for the sake of clarity, Max simply said yes. And it's huge. With Suter and Fabry, get Burt back with Larkin and Raymond. If that's your top 6 coming into Arizona tomorrow night, fucking A, dude. Let's go.
That's the top 6 that we've been looking for.
Mm-hmm. So I'm pumped. I mean, do we want to keep winning? It's up to the person, I guess, at this point, whether or not they want to see Detroit win. But I tell you right now, they're not going to keep losing. So they're going to have to come down and pray for a random draw to win a fucking lottery at this point. I don't think they're going to catch in the final spot in the wild card, but it is what it is.
No, absolutely not.
Vrana being back is huge, and this team is only going to benefit as a whole because of it.
I'm kind of surprised that Ansar Khan didn't post actual lines today. He just
You're surprised by that?
He posted power play units. So, like you said, it's a good top 6, and it pushes. So, I mean, Nemestikov down to the 3rd line. Nemestikov, yep. Rasmussen, Ernie. He's been playing up top. And your bottom is still Gagne, Veleno, Zadina. I don't like Zadina on the 4th line. And that's I want
Ernie. If you flip Ernie and Zadina, I think you've got a solid 4 lines of hockey.
What has Adam Ernie done this entire season?
Nothing.
To get 3rd line over Zadina.
Yeah, nothing.
Honestly, I would like Gagne, Raz, Zadina over anything else.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But really, Zadina should be on the 3rd line with Vlad and Raz. I think right there. Now I get why that line is together because those 3 have been kind of a force out there, not necessarily scoring goals, but they're causing havoc on the opposing team this season. Has it really led to much? You could argue that, but has it been much because of Ernie? Not really. It's been Vlad and Raz doing a majority of that work. You bring Zadina into that, it's going to be like putting him with Larkin out there because those 2 are going after the puck. And you got Zadina to roam free.
Put Zadina on the 2nd line with Suter and Vrana. Put Fabry on the 3rd with Nemestikov and Rasmussen, and throw Ernie down to the 4th.
That too, because Fabry's been kind of a wild card lately, and for the most part this season. But
why are we playing this game with Adam Ernie? I mean, it doesn't. If anyone needs to be, because if we still need to make a spot, which it doesn't look like we do now, but why is Ernie why are we even messing around with it? Why is Ernie on the third line?
Or playing.
I mean, playing, sure. You got to have a fill-in because Rowney's on IR.
Yeah, Smith still.
You do have Smith. I mean, I guess my question is, why are we automatically giving Zadina the finger and throwing him in the basement?
I mean, you're still putting him with two skilled players, though. So in a way, I can see it only because, but it depends on what's their ice time.
Yeah, you're going to give him 8 minutes, 9 minutes.
Because that's what Jeff Blashill does.
But I mean, you put him with Velino and Gagne, and there's going to be it's an offensive driven line. It's not your grinded out fourth line. They're going to be going out there. You're not going to be that upset if you've got your top six tired, and that's going to be what you put into an offensive zone faceoff. Am I wrong there?
No, but I think what I'm looking at
is now.
If you're trying to put a tough guy on almost every line or someone that can bang up or whatever,
you don't have that.
You don't have that on the fourth line. Now you don't on the second line, or
you don't on the first line.
Bertuzzi, but
right, okay.
If you take Ernie and you put him on the fourth, and you've got Gagne, Veleno, and Ernie, you've got your guy there. Mm-hmm. Rasmussen on the third, he's big enough, and he's been able to throw the body lately. Nemestikov, Rasmussen, Zadina. The only line you don't really have a rough and tumble guy on is the second line.
Yeah, I like Burt back with Raymond for a little protection there.
Yeah.
Sure, that's fine. But I mean, I hate how they are just playing yo-yo with Zadina. And here's some time on the top line. Here's some time on the second line. Now you're back down to the fourth.
He's been much more effective and much more noticeable when he's playing with better talent. And he's one of those guys that can't just make his own game. He needs someone to pass him the puck. And there's a lot of players like that in the league. And if he's going to be a guy that's going to be a contributor in the future, and if he's going to be, a top two line player, he's going to need to play with some good guys, at least the center that can distribute the puck to him. If not, he's just going to be one of those Timu Pulkkinen and Martin Ferks that are just, goal scorer. And obviously Zadina is more skilled than those guys, so not trying to take that away from him, but he's going to become one of those guys that's just expendable, and they end up trading him, and he fizzles out because he's one of those guys. He's proved it this year. When you put him on the top line, he produces. Obviously not every game, but he can produce. And if you leave him there, or you leave him with some talent, he's going to be able to put the puck in the back of the net. And the biggest thing is right now, Steve Yzerman didn't draft him. So he has no real allegiance to him, or no real...
there's zero connection.
Yeah, there's zero connection, really, at the end of the day. But, if you want to get to the top of the mountain, or you want to at least continue to build to the top of the mountain, he's going to be a part of the team, or he's at least going to be a piece that gets you to that part where you want to be at. So my thing is like, why keep dinking around with it? If it's worked out with him on the first line, then why are you going to move Bertuzzi up because Vrana needs to come in? Why not start Vrana down on the third line?
Sure. Or there's several things you could do.
There's a lot of couple
things. He's really good, and you want to put him with better players.
You could put Bertuzzi on the second line, move Fabry down, put Zadina on the top, or put Zadina on the second. It's...
Who knows? With the way the lines have been the last couple games, it's likely to change.
Yeah, the Black.
And that's not even and we don't even know if he's even going to be in the lineup tomorrow night.
The Ninja is out in full force.
We'll see what happens. But to round out the night tonight, all the news there is on Vrana, just that he is in full practice. He's not switching in with anyone. He's actually on a line. We're just awaiting doctor clearance, and he'll be in before the end of the month. Just when that is, we don't know yet. Now, before we get to the last subject of the night, I want to take a second to read a message from DraftKings. Hoops fans, the latest offer from DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is too good to pass up. I'm talking between the legs 360 windmill good. New customers can bet just $1 on any team and get $150 in free bets if they win. It's that simple. If Sportsbook isn't available in your area, you can still take your shot at a big payday. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes with DraftKings daily fantasy basketball contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN. Bet just $1 on any NBA team and get $150 in free bets if they win. That's promo code THPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. 21 or older, minimum age and location requirements vary by jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for full list of requirements and state-specific responsible gaming resources. Void where prohibited. Minimum $5 deposit. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Tennessee, call or text the TN Red Line 1-800-889-9789. In Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat. In New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY 467-369. All right. But what we want to end tonight with is we did do just a quick call for questions because there was so much stuff that happened. And we did get some in. We already went through a couple. We were asked by Sealed7 on Twitter at Sealed7, what's your current trade values off the roster besides the untouchables like Sider, Raymond, Larkin, and Ned? I mean, at this point, you got a Levy, you could try and trade. I mean, I think you were going to any ways, but try and trade Nicoletti, retain half his salary, trade him to a contender. I mean, at least try to get your second round pick back. I think your only other pieces are if someone wants to take, Nemestikov, someone wants to take maybe Troy Stetcher on a flyer for the end of the season.
You can get him to waive his no movement.
Yep. And the same with Mark Stahl. If Mark Stahl truly wants to get a shot at a Stanley Cup and says, I want to go to Colorado or I want to go to
back to New York,
Vegas or back to New York, and they'll give you, I don't know, a third. I mean, Mark Stahl is a serviceable defenseman. And if they give you a third round pick for him, I mean, go let him finish out the year somewhere else because he's not getting any younger and he might have a year left in him. Maybe he hasn't been injury prone and he hasn't really been hurt at all this season, but
he may have played his way into one final year with a contender.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that's a good bet.
And you would have never said that at the beginning of the year.
No. And I think,
going back to last season at the start.
And I think Thomas Greiss has pretty much tanked any trade value he's had.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's if Ken Holland wants to play nice with Stevie and says that he needs a goalie and whatever. I mean, I don't think there's really any high end value. I guess the easy way to say it is no contender is going to want to take a flyer on Greiss currently.
So the Leafs are getting close to blowing a 3-0 lead tonight.
Beautiful.
Well, Campbell, what was it? Jack Campbell in his past 14 games or so has had a post 900 save percentage. It's like an 886.
I think it was 3-0 in the first.
It was before period. We started recording. It was 3-0,
and it's 3-2 now. Beautiful. Yeah. Columbus complete the comeback, please.
Yeah, well, that's another team that Campbell at the beginning of the season, they're like, he's going to win the Vezina. He's going to get all those Vezina votes. He's going to make $1 billion next season. And I don't understand what's going to happen now because he's has not been good. He's been really, really bad the past stretch here. Decent.
And Mrazek has been horrible too. So
he's been vintage Mrazek. Insanely inconsistent, way too far out of his net all the time.
I think going back to the point though of values, if Yzerman's somehow able to stretch out a second round pick from the guys we just mentioned, I think it's a win. The only way we're going to get more is if he's trading off a Fabry or a Bertuzzi or one of those guys that you wouldn't necessarily think are going to get traded because it's just they're playing well, but not that well. So and a lot of it could end up coming down to negotiating a better pick just for retaining that salary. That's where I think Stahl, or you mentioned Stetcher, those guys have a higher potential because they're going to be cheaper. But that'll also depend on some of these teams near the top and what they've got in terms of their LTIR pool to take them into the playoffs to reactivate someone and so on. So,
yeah, I mean, any guys that are going to net you a bigger return, like Bertuzzi would net you the biggest return of anyone on the team.
Totally.
But again, his ability to play in Canada kind of kills it right now unless they change it.
It's about to change in most areas, I think.
Well, yeah, but it's they haven't said anything about border crossings. That's the issue.
True.
So there's that. I mean, they could retain a little bit and trade Hronek if they wanted to. And maybe that would get you a decent return because he's still young.
That'd be a dangerous move because that's another guy that you just signed to an extension and then you trade him off. And I get it's a business, but then you're going to lose some loyalty points real quick.
I wouldn't do it.
Yeah. So I think your pieces that you're looking to trade, I mean, Letty is probably going to be your more high value one because you can retain a decent chunk of his salary, and a contender can stick him on a bottom pair and he'll be fine on a bottom pair, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what you're looking at there. I don't expect a huge trade deadline from the Red Wings. I mean, maybe a couple moves, and there's always people like just the Facebook crowd's already going nuts saying that Yzerman's in needs a trade for a superstar. And I'm like, okay, who? And what are you going to give up? You're going to trade first round picks and Edvinson and Raymond and these people to try and get a superstar? Like,
what superstar? Patrick Kane?
I don't know. Yeah, no, thank you. Please keep him as far away from this team as possible.
Keep playing NHL 22, guys.
Yeah, no, it's terrible.
The superstars are the ones in the making, and I mean, you could get lucky with one in the draft. But the guys that you see here are the guys you get.
Yep.
We've got potentially 3 superstar players about to be on this roster, and I'm saying 3 because 2 are here. 1 is likely here next season. We're going to be okay.
Yeah, I think we'll be.
2 are here: Raymond, Seider, Larkin.
Well, I'm referring to the young guys, the young guys: Seider, Lucas, and then Evans. Larkin. I mean, I think Larkin teeters on that elite superstar level this year. He's really projected or propelled himself forward in that sense. I think he's solidified himself as a 1C in the NHL.
I think his ceiling is like a Patrice Bergeron kind of player, maybe better.
If you would call Bergeron right now, you even for a while, you call Bergeron a superstar for the Bruins.
If Larkin repeats what he did this season, next season, then he's easily in that spot.
He's also one of the best defensive centers in the NHL too.
That's why I hope that Larkin is signed in the offseason to an extension and not until after the season.
I mean, if you call Jonathan Taves a superstar,
I don't.
I think you can call Dylan Larkin a superstar at this point this season.
Yeah, that's fair.
Is Jonathan Taves a superstar because he was the captain of 3 Stanley Cup teams? Is that why he was?
I mean, he was also extremely good.
Yeah, he was really good.
I think he was extremely overrated. But
well, what about Anze Kopitar?
I think Kopitar is fantastic. He's still fantastic at the age
that he's at right
now. I see more in Kopitar than I do in Taves. I think Taves is more of a product of the team that he was on versus Kopitar was kind of driving the bus on that team. Are you really defending Jonathan Taves right now?
No, but I'm not going to say that he wasn't a superstar.
Yeah, no.
I think Patrick Kane, if anything, was the superstar on that team.
I mean, they complemented each other, but I mean, I absolutely think Taves. God damn it, you're going to make me look up his stats, aren't you?
I will tell you, Taves and Larkin's stats very similar.
Are they? I mean, he is shit the bed officially this year.
Is Taves a Hall of Famer?
He's got 835 points in 989 games. I mean,
okay. I mean, he was on a fantastic team for what?
But he was also
years?
he was also feeding Patrick Kane. So,
all right. Point wise, I mean, he's had 1 season where he almost averaged a point a game.
Yep. That's what I'm saying. Look at his first few years. Look at Dylan Larkin's first few years.
Similar.
Up until this point, they're very similar.
You could argue that they're at the same level then, as of right now. Okay. If Larkin continues at the pace that he's on, because then we talked about it, 2 years ago? Him, Bert, Mantha were going on their tear. They were all averaging a point a game. Bert got hurt, derailed everything, but Larkin still, in his peak, has been averaging almost a point per game.
Yep. And he's only 26.
Yeah. If he does what he's doing this year and does it again next year, he's in a new tier.
By law of averages, should go up because if Raymond's still developing, and I mean, and it all depends.
Who else they bring as a free agent,
and whatever happens with Bert, and if Bert stays on the top or goes down, maybe Vrana goes to the top line. I mean, Larkin makes the guys around him better.
Yep. And
I don't see, because he's 100% healthy this season, unless he gets hurt again, what he's doing this season change next season. I don't see it changing.
They're only going to get better. That's the thing.
That's
and if that happens,
yeah, watch out.
I think the biggest thing about Dylan Larkin this year, obviously health has been important, but I also think the confidence has been there. He's playing with some much better players, and he's putting the puck in the back of the net too. So
the next question is from Cameron Nagel on Twitter at CNagel91. Do you think there are buyers for any of the Wings players at the deadline, especially defensemen? There seems to be quite a few defensemen available from other teams that may be more desirable for contenders.
Yeah, but at what cost?
Yeah, exactly. So you're going to look at some of those other defensemen, and the teams are going to want first-round picks, or they're going to want blue-chip prospects. I think our defensemen are really what there is the only market for our players is in those defensemen. So, yeah, there are better defensemen probably available, like a Chychrun, but unless you're going to give your top prospect and a first-round pick and a good roster player, you're not going to get them. So,
I can see Vegas doing something crazy because they still got guys out. Martinez has been out forever. Tampa, you never know. Edmonton, Ken Holland gets drunk.
Just constant state of drunk.
Yeah, it's tricky because I think they know how to. They can work the system, and I think we talked about it the other day. We could see some wacky trades going on where we get 3 teams playing the brokerage deals, taking on money, then taking on money again. So Detroit will be cheaper in terms of the cap hit, but not necessarily better. And some of these teams are going to be more willing to, I think, mortgage the future or what they got. So it's really, I think this season is more of a crapshoot than any other.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I kind of just echo what Ryan said. I mean, it kind of depends on what the team's needs are, really. I mean, if you have someone go down and they have a real need for a Filip Hronek, do you make the trade?
Inside the Atlantic, they're not trading anybody. Carolina's set on D, New York's set on D. I mean, I could see Pittsburgh maybe doing something on the eastern side. Out west,
is open.
Colorado could do it. I mean, St. Louis might. They're kind of a little bit desperate. I don't think they necessarily thought they were going to be in this position, but Tarasenko's been on fire.
They're really a weird team,
propelled them, right? But I mean, looking at the other teams, even LA's in second in the Pacific. That's incredible.
Yep.
But I think Vegas, of any of the teams in Edmonton, would, I think, maybe be ones to watch in terms of us making a trade, if more likely to the West. They're kind of bubble. They're a little consistent on the back end.
Calgary's another one.
Yeah, but they're a great shutdown team in general. So I couldn't necessarily. Oh, they play.
I think the one team I watch in the East, Ryan, is Boston.
Yeah,
the last kick of the can with the guys that they have. I don't know how willing they are to mortgage the future, but it's not like they have much in the pipeline. I was kind of looking at their pipeline the other day because someone was having this argument with me the other day. I'm like, you guys don't have much in the pipeline, so you might as well mortgage it and try to go for it and see what happens one last time, because you guys do have a decent team at best. I don't know that you're a Stanley Cup contender, but I mean, if that Swayman kid can get hot, you never really know. So
I could see Nick Leddy fitting in well with a Calgary roster.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they've already got multiple guys with some size. They're not really point producing. I mean, they're balanced scoring. All of their defensemen have 13 points or more. Their main defenseman, I should say. So if you brought Leddy into that fold, he might be able to crack it bottom 6, or they rotate with 7D. Who knows?
And the last question of the night comes from Liam at Jace2155 on Twitter. Who gets the A, and why is it Bert or Cider? So
I don't think either of those guys get it.
Not this season. I would not be surprised if next season Cider got an A. Simply just for who he is and what he's been able to come in and do.
Mm-hmm.
And he is in all interviews point to him being a phenomenal locker room guy. So I could see Cider getting it. And I don't see Bertuzzi getting it simply for his inability to not play, or his inability to play in Canada this season. Not a team friendly move.
Yeah, I'm not so hooked on that, but I just think that you've got another guy in Gagne. I think it would be between Gagne, Vlad, or
well, I don't think they replace it this season. There's not really a need to. Huh? Yeah, no. I don't think so.
I think they'll give it out. I'd put Letty on there too. I think it'd be between Letty and Gagne.
And I mean, again,
definitely Gagne.
DeKeyser's not gone, so he could still hold it.
Well, no, but he's not gone, but they're still going to have a secondary assistant captain. If they don't, I'd be surprised at this point. Because you've got, I think Gagne and Letty, they've both worn the letter before. Gagne has in the absence of some of these guys. I think I could see one of those guys getting the A.
I just don't think they move it. But I mean, DeKeyser, you can't change it unless he's actually officially gone, though. Like if he goes to Grand Rapids, then
sure you can. Sure. If he's not on the ice, you're not going to put the A. You're going to have to put the A on somebody else. I guess you don't have to, but most teams do.
Don't have to.
I think it'll be Gagne. He's had it before. It makes the most sense. He's the team dad at this point.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, but that's gonna do it for us tonight. We're gonna close it out, and I want to let's do Tyler first, since he was here first for once in his life.
Wow, look at that! Look at that special treatment. No, my final thoughts are, the trade deadline is going to be interesting here. You really kind of don't know what Steve Yzerman's gonna do or not do. It's hard to predict, as we all know now. Going on, what is this, 3 years with Steve Yzerman now? So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. Other than that, you can follow me on Twitter at SealDog91 and just enjoy the hockey because it's been pretty good for the most part.
Yeah, I'll kind of echo that, but I mean, I don't think any of us expected. How do you say his name? I hate having to pronounce these half the time.
Olli Juolevi.
Olli Juolevi.
I'll go with Ollie. I'm going with Ollie. That's my aunt's dog's name. No, I don't think any of us expected him to be picked up by Yzerman. I don't think any of us necessarily expected him to waive Danny DeKeyser today. So he's continued that since really day one of we have no fucking clue what's going to happen. But usually when something does happen, it's a good thing. So it's really going to make these next 2 weeks interesting, as Tyler mentioned, going into the trade deadline. And the Wings could sell off a little bit. They may not. They're not going to necessarily buy. If they do, I'd be freaking amazed. But if they did so, it would only be in the sense that they're getting someone they know is going to be around for the next several years, and they're going to be a younger player. So it's really not going to be an impactful type trade in that scenario to me. So it's keeping it fun. It's keeping it interesting. I really hope Vrana comes back tomorrow night because the wife and I are going to the game. It's an early anniversary gift to each other. So if he's there and they get to destroy Arizona with him in the lineup, I'll be more all about it. But other than that, yeah, it's hockey. Already Ryan 33.
So a couple small things before I sign us off. Next week, we will have Daniela Bruce on to kind of preview the trade deadline. So she will be on talking to us next week. And the Wednesday following the trade deadline, we will be recording and have Max on, Max Bultman from The Athletic, to go over the moves that were made and kind of how it changes the chemistry of the team and what we might be able to expect on it going forward. But you can follow me online at Bringing the Wing. You can follow the Grindline Podcast online at Grindline Pod. I'd like to give a shout out to Vintage Detroit, which is the only place you should ever get Detroit jerseys and gear from. They are awesome and their work is amazing. You can also follow the Hockey Podcast Network at Hockey Podnet. We like to thank them for hosting us and spreading our podcast around everywhere. Howie's Hockey Tape. If you go to howieshockeytape.com and use promo code Grindline, you get 10% off your order. Use that same promo code on Bring Hockey Back, you get 12%. And then if you go to redbubble.com and search the Grind Line, you will find our merch shop where you can get our designs on a whole bunch of different stuff. I actually have to get, again, back on the design train and come up with a couple new things. There's a bunch of good stuff on there already that we sell pretty consistently. So you can go check that out. But that's going to